Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aaron's Reading Room and welcome back to my live shows. Today, I have joining with me author Katie Richards. Katie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. Definitely. Well, I always start these guest interviews by asking my guests to show off any covers that they're in love with. Did you bring any covers for us
Yeah,
today?
I did. I am in love with it. There are actually three. I don't have the third book
Oh,
but
okay.
this series has gorgeous
Mm-hmm.
covers. It's fantasy. As a reader, I love
Yeah.
fantasy. So Lady Smoke, Lady Smoke, and Ember Queen, and then the third book is called The Ash Princess. So
Okay.
good if you love fantasy. I said it actually backwards. The first book is The Ash Princess, then Lady Smoke, then Ember Queen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But all three of them are amazing. They're so great. I've read them like multiple times. I keep going back because there's always something else to find.
Yeah. No, I love a series like that you can just keep going back to it. Hey, Alicia, good to have you here. Well, thank you for sharing those with us. And so to start off, from your webpage, I did a little digging, and it said that you've been writing since a young age. So you didn't specify what age, but were crime thrillers always your specialty?
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
My first written story, my mother says I talk so much. I was always telling stories from the moment I started talking. but my first written story was a story about a little girl who goes into the woods and she meets up with a monster, and then she slays the monster. And I was like 10 or 11 when I wrote that one. So it's handwritten,
Oh,
in
yeah.
a notebook. I really wish I kept it for a really long time. And then in a move, somehow, somewhere, it got tossed. And so I'm like, I want to recreate it, but it'll never be the same.
Yeah. So we'll have, we can maybe look forward to a fantasy from Katie Richards.
I hope one day, that's the dream I would love to. I have so many ideas, but it's hard. Oh my gosh.
Building the world from the ground up. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Kudos to those authors, man. The ones that do it well, they do it well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hey, Reading Room. Thanks for being here. Always good to have you.
Hi, everyone.
Well, also from your website, you say that you worked as an attorney for 15 years. So did that experience help you with your fiction writing and all, or was it unrelated law work?
Well, it helps a little. It hurts a little because the West series it does have private eyes. And when I first when I first sat down to write what became the series, I didn't know it was going to become the West series. The male protagonist was a police officer, but I had such a hard time writing him. I kept getting tripped up on the law because I would know, oh, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You need to go get a warrant. And it takes like 3 weeks. But it doesn't take 3 weeks, but it would take too long for the story, And I was like, okay, I don't think you can write this guy as a police officer because you keep getting tripped up on real life, and like, this is a story. Nobody cares. They don't care that much. So I said, well, I'll make him a private eye because maybe he knows that it's illegal, but if nobody's watching, who cares, right? It's not going to be, so I was able to get a little bit of distance by doing that and get through the manuscript. So it helps because I know the law. So when I'm writing a sheriff or a police officer or a lawyer, I at least know if they're not doing it right.
Yeah. You can at least call it out, right?
And sometimes I'll say, this is illegal, or I'll make a little comment. One of the characters will comment that like, we're not exactly doing this the way we do, because I feel like the lawyer in me feels like I have to acknowledge that I know this is not right, just in case.
Yeah. So I mean, how often does the police officer go with the
Oh yeah.
the press from the local town
Yeah,
to investigate.
in romantic suspense,
Yeah.
like all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Everybody's going with the police officer to investigate. There's there is no wall whatsoever. But in real life, no, I've never heard of that. I would never.
So let me ask you this: would you talk to the police or would you talk to the reporter?
As a writer, as a lawyer.
If you were in the story and they came to ask you questions about about what went.
I have to fall back on the legal trade. Like never talk to the police without a lawyer present. So, yeah, a reporter maybe, but the police, no, I'd have to get a lawyer first.
All right. Well, thank you for the unofficial legal advice here.
Unofficial.
We're not giving out legal advice.
That's pretty staid legal advice.
Well, the West Investigation series is part of Harlequin's intrigue line. What is it about this line that you think speaks to your writing style? And can you tell us what it's like to work with the intrigue team?
Yeah, I mean, the intrigue team is fabulous. My editor is Allison Lyons, and she is amazing. I love her. She gives great feedback and like brings up questions like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that," and gives me the suggestions that make the story so much better than it would be without her. So they're fabulous. They're wonderful. Everyone over there is wonderful. But for me, I write what I like to read. Mm-hmm. So I read a lot of romantic suspense, and I like the mystery. I like having like moving from one to the other, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm kind of not very patient. I can lose focus a little quickly. I'm not a person who's gonna like watch a whole series, television series, or even a whole season of a show, because I will totally have lost interest after like the third episode. Uh-huh. So I need something that's gonna kind of keep me interested, and I find that romantic suspense, or really any kind of genre that kind of blends more than one genre, it's interesting enough, because you move from the thrills to the romance, back to the thrills, it's suspenseful. There's a lot going on in it. You're never bored. You never put it down and not come back to it. So yeah. That's great for me as a writer as well as a reader. I'm always interested in the story.
Yeah. So Harlequin is known for having a shorter word count than a lot of other publishers. So do you think that helps in your writing style, that you do kind of have to just keep moving the story along and there's not really time to dilly-dally?
Absolutely. In my writing style and my reading style, I'm not a dilly-dallier. Not like, I don't have long soliloquies about your feeling. Or like, I don't care about that. and I will skip, in description, and when I'm reading, I will skip like description, because I love to just let my mind kind of go, and for me to think about, it's enough for me to know like, oh, we're in Boston and it's winter, and just like the basic outline of what the time period, what's happening, and then the rest of it I feel in myself. That's part of the joy of reading.
Yeah.
So as a writer, it's a little bit hard, because you do have to write those. Not everybody is like that, right? So when I'm writing the book, they're like, oh, you got to tell them a little bit more. You can't just be like, it's Boston and it's cold. So that for me is a little bit of a challenge. But when I write, I usually write using fast draft. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That way of writing, where I'll write. I'll just sit down and I'll write the story from start to finish. And I don't worry. I have a lot of like parentheses that say, describe something here, talk more about how she's feeling here. So my first draft is just totally fun for me, because it's all, shootouts and car chases and all of the fun stuff, all of the romance, all of the great stuff, the stuff that you really look forward to. And then the second draft, I'm like, oh, now I have to go back and do all the editing and put all the layers in. And so that's a little bit harder, but the first draft I have so much fun with. It's just like anything I can think of happening.
Uh-huh.
let's do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that brought a question up to me. So in the most recent West Investigation series, Catching the Carling Lake Killer, there was a moment where I thought a love scene was coming, and it it faded to black, but it brought, which is fine, But it made me want to ask, how sexy are you allowed to get in Intrigue?
Yeah, I mean, Intrigue is like mid level, I guess what they call it, low to
Hmm.
mid heat. So I like having love scenes. I like reading love scenes, so I
Hmm.
put them in my book. But there are totally intrigues that don't have any.
Yeah.
You will not get that from me. Sorry if that's what you're looking for. I like the love scenes. I enjoy reading them. I enjoy writing them. So I always put them in, but you do have to be. It's not some of like some of the other lines will go a lot farther
Right.
than,
Right. Yeah.
than it is. Like they're a lot more descriptive. I think, at least for me, I try to be more sort of romantic, sort of
Hmm.
more having the characters, you see the characters connect. So that's sort of what the love scene is meant to do. It's not. I mean, I do like the racier books too, but and some of them, it's one night stand that I'm probably not doing that because I want the character, you to see the connection. It
Hmm.
may start off that way, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
but quickly they're gonna be attached. Yeah.
Definitely. Hey, Vina. And Vina thought book one was very sexy.
Oh yeah.
That that was Christmas. Was Christmas Data Breach the first one?
No, that was
Oh,
Pursuit of the Truth.
oh, okay.
Pursuit of the Truth. I think that one did have more intimate scenes than any of the other ones I read.
Okay.
I wrote. Not I
Uh-huh.
read. I wrote. So yeah, I'd have to agree. That's probably the sexiest one. There's a scene on a couch that I really enjoy. I love that.
All right,
Read the book.
folks. Yeah. Watch out for a scene on the couch.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be. All right. Well, let's see. You write standalone thrillers outside of
Yeah.
Harlequin. Can you can you give what would, well, let me slow down. Words. So, what would someone that has just read your intrigue novels, what can they expect from your standalones?
Yeah, so I've written a standalone. It's called Kill for You. It's an ebook with Simon and Schuster, and it's written under Kia Richards. So I
Mhm.
use the whole just to give a little bit of separation
Yeah.
because it is a little bit darker.
Okay.
So it's longer, it's darker. There is romance, but that's not anywhere near as much, and it's not really the central theme of the book
Mhm.
whatsoever. It's much more of a thriller, um, and it's about a Black concert violinist who has had her hand damaged, so she's no longer able to
Oh.
play, but she
Mhm.
has a fan that is stalking her,
Mm.
she turns to her former love, who is now a police detective, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
That trope that we love, for help when the stalker
Mhm.
gets more dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Uh,
really love that one. I play violin myself, not
oh, okay.
well, not anywhere near a concert, violinist or
Uh-huh.
anything. But that's sort of why she's a little bit of a dream in the back of my head. Well, maybe if I had practiced more when I was younger.
Right. Right. Yeah. We all have a bit of those in the back of our
Right,
head,
right.
no?
I could have been a concert violinist. It's like, no, you couldn't have.
Well, Reading Room just bought Pursuit of the Truth, and they're going to wait till the interview is over to start reading
Oh,
it. It's
great.
awesome
Thank
of
you
you.
so much. I appreciate it.
Now, So I've noticed a little bit of somewhat of a pattern that you like to have your love interest be a little bit involved at the beginning of the story.
Mhm.
So is that do you just prefer to write the characters that way?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't like to see is like insta love, and it's
Hmm.
really hard to explain how two people like fall in love with each other in 50,000 words. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, this is all happening in maybe a week if you're lucky. You know,
Uh-huh.
if I can manage it, but a lot of times it's days.
Yeah.
So there's got to be, how do you convincingly connect the characters, so that there's a happily ever after at the end,
Hmm.
um in if they met each other 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I can't really buy into it, so it's difficult
Yeah.
for me to write it.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean, like, maybe one day I'll figure it out. But
There'll be a love at first sight.
yeah, maybe one day I'll figure it out, but I haven't seen it. I haven't been able to do it yet. So I try to come up with different ways. Maybe they knew each other years and years ago, as in
Right.
Christmas data breach. So there's some
Uh-huh.
time between their first encounter and their current encounter. Um, but yeah, each and every one of them, there's something there, even if it was as in Pursuit of the Truth, they weren't in love, but they kind of had crushes.
Hmm.
They knew
Yeah.
each other, but they had noticed each other, but it had never gone beyond,
Right. Yeah.
he's cute.
Never taken that step. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I kind of feel like you have to have some sort of, they have to at least know each other.
Yeah. Well, you write mystery so well. Has the Harlequin romantic suspense team ever approached you, asked you to write something for them?
They haven't. I would be open to it, and I've thought about stories that I could pitch
Hmm.
to them. It's been a little busy with in a great way with the West series,
Yeah.
but I definitely have some ideas
All
for
right.
the romantic suspense. So hopefully, I'll one day be able to sit down and get it
Excellent. Well, I look forward to all that you've got coming.
done.
Congratulations on the most recent book in the West Investigation
Thank
series, Catching the
you.
Carling Lake Killer. How does it feel to have taken the series this far?
Well, I would have never imagined. When I wrote Pursuit of the Truth, it wasn't really a series.
Hmm.
I didn't start out thinking that it was going to be a series, but Sean West popped up in Pursuit of the Truth
Hmm.
as one of the West brothers, and he was so like dynamic and jumping off the page that I said, "Oh, he has to have his own story. I just have to figure out something for him." And then as I did, and as I was writing Missing at Christmas, which is Sean is the male protagonist in that one. Gideon did the same thing. He was like, "Well, Sean got a book. How come I don't? I want my own book." So then I was like, "Okay, I have to write a book for Gideon." So that's how it kind of became a series. Each of the West brothers and their friends. It's sort of very outgoing males who have kind of jumped into my head and wouldn't go away until I wrote a story for them and gave them their happily ever after. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's good they've got supportive love interests that don't warn off their their
Yeah,
in-laws and
yeah.
go, oh, you better watch out getting involved with this
Well, the
family.
females are as interesting and as dynamic as the males, right? I mean,
Yes.
I try to make them all strong, professional females who don't necessarily need the guys. They don't
Uh-huh.
need they might hire an investigator, hire West to be the investigators, but they don't need a man. Um, but it's helpful. It's helpful to have the investigators, the PIs who know what they're doing.
Hmm.
So I really enjoy that. And Lance, it's another one kind of that came to me in the fourth book, Shooting Her Son. He's the sheriff of Carling Lake, and
Mhm.
I said, well, I definitely have to get him a story. And it took me a little while to figure out who his love interest was. I mean, that's he's such a great character. He cares about everybody in that town. I loved him so much that I had to make sure the right um, love interest came along for him.
Mhm.
And then Simone kind of popped into my head. I met Simone
Yeah.
in like the first scene, the prologue of the book, and that came to me kind of one day when I was just puttering around, and it was like, oh, this is Lance's love interest. I got it. I know exactly who this woman is. So it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. They had really great chemistry throughout that
Yeah,
whole book. Like it was really fun to just
I'm
watch them
glad
play
you
off
like it.
each other.
I'm glad you like it. I love those two. I love them. They're great. They're great. I love all my characters, but some are a little closer to your heart than others. And
Yeah.
those two are great. They're wonderful.
Well, Vina bought Pursuit of the Truth 4 times and gave copies to friends.
Thank
And
you.
and she says she needs to read Shielding Her Son next so she can catch
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
James's story. So if you've been waiting for the oldest West brother to make his appearance, that's James.
Right. Well, you kind of answered this one. At what point in the series did Lance, to you as the author, show up? And it was in Shielding Her Son
Yeah.
that he first appeared. Was he how fleshed out was he in your head in Shielding
He
His
was
Son?
pretty fleshed out because he was the best friend to the female protagonist there.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of, and he was a little protective of her. And for a while, I was like, well, maybe there'll be a love triangle, but then it's nah. I don't know if I want to do that. so he was pretty fleshed out. I kind of knew who he was, and that's why I had to kind of think about what his story was going to be and who his love interest was going to be, and that's why he didn't become the immediate next book. He's not the male protagonist in Darkwater Disappearance,
Mhm.
which comes right after Shielding Her Son. So it took me a little bit of time to get him a love interest that was worthy of him.
Yeah.
But I think Simone definitely, she holds her own. He tried many times to tell her, back off, this is not safe, and she's like, I'm not listening to you. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a moment where they were meeting up and she like walked through town or whatever to meet him, and he's just so mad.
Did you not realize you're in danger? Yeah, I know. She's just like, it's Carling Lake. How bad can it be? No, I mean, there's great. She's fearless. She's as determined as he is to figure out what's going on and who the bad guy is. She's a journalist. I mean, she wants to get to the bottom of things.
Yeah.
And I love that. In a lot of romantic suspense, the male is sort of the one that's hesitant to get into a relationship, and in this book, she's just like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Play her role. I'm an independent woman. I don't know if I want to be saddled with you. And he's the one. He pursues her, and convinces her that, like, look, you love me. she finally gives in.
Yeah. Well, and we know it too, because her internal dialogue saying one thing, and then when Lance brings it up, she's like, whoa, hold on a second.
Right. Right. So, yeah.
Well, I wanted to add that I really appreciate that you had a character named Aaron in the story. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
When you write a mystery, do you know who done it when you start writing?
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big outliner, although I will say that my stories often go off outline. But I start out, I outline pretty much everything, and including the end.
Mhm.
So I usually I need to know where I'm going when I sit down to actually do the writing. Occasionally, though, that will change. Sometimes, and I think this story, I won't give away the ending, but I think this Catching the Carlin Lake Killer was one. Sometimes I'm surprised when I get to the end and I'm like, the killer isn't what I thought it was. It's someone else. And that happened in this story. The killer was not who I initially planned for it to be, but when I got to the end, it became so obvious that it should be this other person. That I was like, oh, why did I even write it that way in the first place? Like, clearly he's the killer. So that was fun for me to find out that it was differently. But usually I know and I stick to it, and it is what it is at the end.
I was pretty tense, reading, finishing this one.
Yeah.
It just like, no, this is too easy. This is too easy. Something's not right.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it was sort of like I don't know, brain freeze. But it was like, of course it has to be this other person. Doesn't make any sense the way you had it. Well, it made sense, but it was too easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this month on the Categorically Romance podcast, the theme of our books club is romantic suspense. So do you have any good romantic suspense book recommendations for any readers out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I've just recently discovered and read Elizabeth Goddard. I read Deadly Target, and it was great. It was fabulous. It's wonderful. It's a whole series, actually. I just read one book, but in Deadly Target in the series, but I'm going to get the rest of them because it was really good. I would definitely encourage her to pick up her book, and then Sharon Cooper also, and she's with Harlequin, writes amazing romantic suspenses. So she has tons. She's been writing forever. She's a fabulous author. I would pick up any of her books as soon as they come out. They're wonderful.
Excellent. So I was muting myself. My auto cat feeders were going off. Well, so I just thought of this one. So, a lot of people can, and it shouldn't, but can criticize the romance genre as, how it's going to end. And it can almost say the same for like a suspense novel too. So what would you say for either genre? What keeps us coming back? Because we're voracious about reading these things.
I mean, you could say that about so many genres, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, we know that the main character or the protagonist is going to survive. They're usually gonna, if you're reading, a quest story, they're gonna be successful.
Yeah, right. Right.
And so you could really say that about any of them. I think obviously a lot of people like to denigrate romantic suspense, anything with romance in it.
Right. Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's like the biggest genre, biggest selling genre, so somebody's reading it.
Right. Yeah.
And probably some of the people who are criticizing it are reading it. So I don't really pay attention to them too much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just because you kind of have an idea about what's gonna happen, you could say that about television shows, movies, whatever. Doesn't make the journey. It's the journey that's the thing that is really great, and how you get there and why it's what you take from it and what you feel when you're reading it, and that moment when you put a book down, you're like, oh my god, that was the best book ever. That's what you're going for.
Yeah.
and even if you knew, I knew at the end they're gonna get together, it was how they managed to get together, or how the protagonist managed to solve the crime that really is what you read the book for, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think about it, especially if you're a reader of a genre and you've been reading it for years and you've read dozens, if not hundreds of books.
Mm-hmm.
You can see, our minds are trained to pick up patterns, right? You're going to pick up the pattern. You're going to know. You're going to know, right? I was talking to another author friend of mine months ago, and she's like, I don't know she's actually studied writing, and she was saying there's really only like 40 to 70, like scholars say there are only 40 to 70 stories, and everything else is a takeoff of those 40 to 70 stories. It's like, yeah, maybe it's possible. You've studied it, I haven't, but she's like, it's all the same stuff. If you can always find the patterns if you're really looking for it. So enjoy the ride, keep reading, and don't think about it too hard. It's entertainment.
Yes, us story lovers, we're gonna keep seeking out new stories. Yeah,
absolutely.
And Alicia says there's comfort in an HEA or a happy for now. Yes. We agree. Definitely.
Absolutely, because we don't get a lot of it in the real world. Right?
Yeah.
You don't know when you're going into something, and it's going to work out. No matter what. So, we need the books. So, I'm gonna read this, and I know at the end I'm going to at least have a happy ending.
Yes. It's like sometimes in stressful times I'll do a puzzle because it's like, all right, well, I can put this puzzle together. I can control that. That's what.
Right. Well, I'll do this as similar. Like I'm a rereader. So I'll reread a book because I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling kind of down, and I know this book will make me happy. I know, even though I've read it like 1,000 times, this book takes me to my happy place, and I'm gonna read it.
Yes.
Or I want to be scared. So I want to fall into a fantasy, whatever. That's the beauty of books.
Yes, definitely. Well, time for a writer question here. You sit down for a long session of writing. What do you need to have with you to keep you going and motivated?
It will depend on the season a little bit. So if it's cold outside, which is often is in Canada, it'll be hot tea and pretzels and or like a Reese's peanut butter cup, usually around the afternoon where I need a little like sugar. In the summer, it's probably Pepsi and Reese's and pretzels. So the drink changes a little bit.
Have you tried Dot's homemade pretzels? They're like they're kind of spendy, but oh man, they're made with so much butter. It's like
I would dangerous. Love them. I would love them. Usually I'm just getting like the bag of pretzels for the grocery store for snacking while I'm writing. But I love handmade pretzels. So good.
And that was not an advertisement, listeners. No. That's
with lots of salt. Way more salt than it's probably healthy.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you have anything upcoming that you can tell us about?
Yeah, well, the West Investigation series is going to continue.
Excellent.
So look forward to that. The next book is as yet untitled, but it's going to be Brandon, the last West brother.
Okay.
Finally getting his story. And then there are several more. There are four more books that I'm contracted to write in the West series. So I've got a lot more West coming your way soon.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah. Is the book all turned in and everything? You don't have any more revisions left for it? The next one coming?
For the next one, no, actually the next two are all but done. So.
Oh, okay. Right.
You're good. And I have to get started because I have a deadline coming faster than I want to admit. I have to get started on, this would be the 10th. So actually I have up into 9 finished in the 10th book. Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool that you've got such a long running series and it's all you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm humbled and so lucky that so many people have responded well to the West Investigation series.
Oh yeah, Vina lives in PA, spoiled when it comes to pretzels.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for being here. Where can everyone follow you online?
I am active on Instagram and Facebook, and for both of those, I'm Katie Richards author. And then you could check out all the books on my website and sign up for my newsletter at katierichardsbooks.com.
All right. Well, viewers, thank you for being here. Oh, Alicia, Mrs. PA Pretzels.
I know.
She's no longer there.
They are good. They are good.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone. Again, Katie, thank you so much for joining me for this chat. It's been absolutely wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks everyone for joining me.
Yeah, and we'll have to have you back on the Categorically Romance podcast too. I feel like it's been a while since you've been on there.
Yeah, it has. I'd love to join you guys. It's so much fun.
All right. Well, with a coming release, maybe I'll be in contact with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a good night, and thank you for joining us. If you watched us on the replay, thank you so much. So take care, everyone.